Hello everyone. Today I have a data set that comes in this form, and we will take a look on how to cleanse your data when it's in this form and make it more presentable so that we can do the analysis. If you take a closer look at this data set, you have some numbers in column A, you have the SQ level in column B. If I come to column C, you have the business category, you have the group, the brand name, and on the right hand side I can see that I have store names and the quantity sold, and then again the same store name and the value, and this is being repeated for different store levels. And at the end of the data I have the total quantity and the total value. But as you can see, this data set is not ideal for analyzing, because what I would like to see is a pivot table and then run different types of analysis by brand, within brand, the category, or within store, which store is performing, which are your high performing stores, which are high performing brands within that store, and something like this. So at the end of the cleansing, I would like to see my data into a tabular form and then driven by a pivot table. So how can we do this? We can do this through an Excel tool called Power Query. You can go to your data tab and you can see the get and transform data here, or it's also called Power Query. The first and foremost thing that you need to do in your data set is to make it into a table. You can click anywhere inside your data set, go to insert, and within the insert you have an option to make it into a table. Since my data is already transformed into a table, that's the reason why it's grayed out. So that's your first step. Now let's import this into the Power Query editor by clicking on From Table. As soon as I click From Table, our Power Query editor should open up and you will see the data set into your Power Query editor. First thing, on the right hand side, what we can do is we can give this data set a name. So I will just define this as sales analysis and press enter. Now for those of you who don't know Power Query is a data cleansing tool. It's also called ETL, which basically stands for extract, transform, and load. You have different tabs here: the home tab, transform tab, add column, view, and they give you a lot of tools where you can remove columns, where you can split columns by different delimiters. You can group just like a pivot table by categories. You can merge different queries, many functions. The best one that I found was unpivoting columns. So let's dive into this and let's see how we can perform the data analysis. So let's examine the first row. We can see the first row that it says null, it's blank here, and as I scroll to the right hand side I can see my store name. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go to the last column and we need to remove our total quantity and total value. So let's scroll to the last column. Right, so now what we have done is we have scrolled right down to the last columns, which is the total quantity and the value. So let's get rid of these two columns by clicking on Control. Let's go to the Home tab and we can choose Remove Columns from here. Now we've removed the total quantity and the total value. So let's scroll back again to the beginning of our data set. Now what we need to do is to transpose the table, and we can transpose the table by going to the Transform tab. If I click on the Transform tab, and you have transpose here. So now that I have transposed the data, you can see that my categories product group have gone from vertical to horizontal, and the store names which were in columns have now come by rows, right? So let's click the first column, let's click the second column, and let's merge this. So we merge columns from here, and we should have a dialog box open up. And you can see the merge columns dialog box. It's asking for a separator. Let's click on this and let's give it a custom separator. Let's click here and let's click on shift and the pipe symbol on the keyboard, and the new column is merged. That's fine. Let's say OK. And once we do that, now you'll see that both the columns have been merged together. You can see quantity value joined with the store names. Now we transpose the data back again. And as you see, as I'm doing the steps, you can see on the right hand side that Power Query is recording my steps step by step. It's still not transposed. I think we need to transpose it again. Yes. And now you can see that Power Query has transposed the data. We are back again with the store names on top. Now we can promote our headers, because as you can see the field names column 1, column 2, column 3, we don't need this, and we have our headings starting from row 1. So we can click on this drop down here and choose use first row as headers, so it promotes our headers on top like this, and you can see Power Query has recorded that step. So far so good. Now let's see how our data set is looking. If I click on the right hand side, I can still see quantity and value. So wherever the store names are there with quantity and value, I need to unpivot those columns. So I will click on the first column, hold down shift and click till brand. So I select only this part of the table or the data, and on the right hand side you have all the store names. So I'd like to unpivot the store names. So you can go to unpivot columns, unpivot other columns. Once I do that, you can see that all my store names are now unpivoted with the store name, the value, and you have quantity and value. Now if you remember a while ago that we had merged these columns, so now we need to split this column again. Split this by the space, because you have numbers here, space and store name. So we will click on this, we will click on by delimiter, and our delimiter over here is space, so we will choose space. Split at the leftmost delimiter from the left hand side. Let's say OK, and now you can see it has split the numbers, so we don't need this column. We have the quantity and the value here with the store name. So we can do a split once again with the pipe symbol. Click on split column again, and what we're looking for right now is the pipe symbol. So once the dialog box opens up, you will just choose the split, we'll just choose the pipe symbol. So click on split column, click on by delimiter, and you can see custom, it's already showing you the pipe symbol here. We will choose leftmost column, leftmost delimiter, say OK, and now you have the store names. So we can just double click here and type in store, and on the right hand side you have your quantity and value. So you can click on this, click on the value, and now what we need to do is we need to pivot this so that we have the quantity in one column and the value in the second column. You can just choose pivot from here, click on pivot, and which column? Values column. Yes, we need this. But the trick here is to click on the advanced options and choose don't aggregate. You can click on don't aggregate and say OK, and you can see that you have your quantity and value in two separate columns. Now for the columns that we have the pipe symbols here, we can just use the split column function, choose by delimiter, and we want to split it by the semicolon. That's fine. Let's say the leftmost delimiter, say OK, and we can remove this, right click and remove, and this is our category, so we can just rename this as category. We can do the same for the product group. Click on split by delimiter, semicolon is fine, leftmost delimiter, say OK. Click on this number column, remove it, and this could be the group, so we can just rename this as group. We need to do the same for the brand, split by delimiter, which is the semicolon. We choose leftmost delimiter, say OK, and we can click on this, right click and remove, and we can just double click and type brand. So now you see that all our steps have been recorded, and you can click on each step and see what did we do. Here we transposed it, we transposed the table. Here we merged the columns, then again we transposed it back. We promoted our headers in the next step. You can ignore this because this is by default. Power Query actually saves the data with different data type names. Then we unpivoted other columns. We started splitting the columns by delimiter. We removed some columns which were the numbers. Again we did a split and we renamed the columns, and then we pivoted our quantity and value, and you can see all our steps have been recorded. So now the data set is good to go. What we can do is we can click on home and we can click on close and load, and once you click on close and load, the data will automatically set up in a new sheet. Alright, now you can see the data that has been dumped into the Excel worksheet, and what we can do from here is make a pivot table out of this. So we can go to the insert tab, and just before clicking on the insert tab, you can see on the right hand side that it shows you the queries and connections tab, and this is the query that has been loaded with around 1298 rows loaded. Okay, so let's go to the insert tab. We click on insert and we want a pivot table, and the table is selected automatically, and we want to run the pivot on the existing worksheet. So we can just click like this and come to an empty space and say OK, and let's close this tab. Let's click on the Excel sheet, and now we can run our analysis. We can drag the values to the values area, the quantity, and we can take a look at the brand, and we also have store, so we can click in the store, and now your pivot table is good to go. All right, so a little bit of formatting here. We go to the design tab, we click on report layout, click on tabular form, and now you can see within the brand you have the stores and how they have performed, right? So you have quantity and value. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on Power Query and data cleansing, and hope to bring you more such small short videos in the near future. And thanks for watching, guys.